Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we will be discussing what it was like to play Goodgame Empire in 2014. Two quick plugs before we get started. First, remember to check out the video description for a link to the full playlist of these videos. We started with 2011. Second, please consider subscribing to the channel and helping me get back to over 10,000 subscribers. By doing so, you'll be signing up to get notifications as I post new episodes of this series every other week. More importantly though, I'd appreciate the chance to remain connected with you after this series is over and I'm deciding what, if anything, to make next. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start the video. By 2014, Goodgame Empire had found its identity. Now, the challenge for Goodgame Studios would be to transform the game into a lasting success. Its efforts to do exactly that resumed in January, after the holiday break. The first few updates of 2014 were mostly focused on making technical changes and improving players' quality of life. Goodgame Studios revamped the adventure map system, making it possible for more maps to be added later in the year. The Alliance chat was repositioned, and Goodgame Studios added a red screen outline to make it easier for players to see incoming attacks. In response to player feedback, Goodgame Studios allowed players to turn off both of these new features. The quest book was modified so that it could guide players to complete quest objectives. New changes allowed players to find and join nearby alliances more easily. Indeed, alliances could now open themselves up so that new members could join without needing an invite. Goodgame Studios also made it possible for players to move troops between their castles using the castle overview, and to launch attacks directly from spy reports. Finally, Goodgame Studios also introduced a smidgen of new content in January. There were now additional levels for production buildings and the tavern. Townhouses were revised to provide a higher population. What's more, players would now discover treasure chests upon expanding the walls of their castles. In February, Goodgame Studios introduced the VIP system, located in the King's Market and intended to replace the premium subscriptions that had recently been removed from the payment shop. Here's how the new system worked. Players would purchase or collect VIP points. The more VIP points you had, the greater your VIP level would be, and the better your VIP benefits would be while your VIP time was active. VIP benefits included increased resource production, faster travel speed, more glory, VIP commanders, a VIP banner, better and cheaper collection of taxes, and more production and recruitment slots. VIP points would decay like glory unless your VIP time was active at the moment of the daily reset. Goodgame Studios probably hoped that by relocating the premium subscription from the payment shop into the game, they could make more players aware of it. When the VIP system was first added, it was actually difficult to collect VIP points and time. The idea was that players would purchase them using rubies, which, in turn, would probably need to be purchased from the payment shop for cash. Even though it was difficult to collect VIP, time, and points, however, free players could access this new system, which I feel was a huge positive. VIP points and time could be obtained for free through the soon-to-be-added Wheel of Fortune, the Mercenary Post, and daily login rewards, among other sources. Over the years, VIP points and time became easier to collect. The biggest change in this respect has been the Master Blacksmith, which was introduced in 2019. The VIP system is now essentially a free-to-play feature, and Goodgame Studios has reacted accordingly by reintroducing premium subscriptions, obtainable only with cash in the game store. Other February additions included the Alliance Help button, a revised Marauder event, new levels, and adjusted pricing for the Watchtower, and modifications to the Battle for Barrowmond. The game's starting units, like the Macemen and Bowmen, were rebalanced to have a higher travel speed and a lower recruitment time. This actually gave them some utility, even at level 70. To ensure the Battle for Barrowmond was balanced, players could no longer choose their starting faction and were instead assigned one on the basis of their alliance. In April, Empire received another big update. This time it was the Storm Islands, a new kingdom that would reset on a monthly basis. In the Storm Islands, players could collect a new resource, Aquamarine, via 3 different methods: attacking storm forts, capturing resource islands, and looting other players. Once collected, Aquamarine could either be spent at a new merchant, Luna's trade boat, for rewards that included troops, tools, and decorations, or invested into the construction of cargo ships. Building cargo ships would contribute to your alliance's cargo points. This was still before time skips were added, so players would either have to spend rubies to expedite construction, or simply log in consistently and build cargo ships over the course of the entire month. Alliances with lots of cargo points would receive rewards at the end of the month. The leader of the top alliance received the best prize of all, the unique title of Storm Lord. This title included the ability to assign 8 other titles, which conferred either benefits or penalties to one player each on the server. The Storm Lord could therefore punish his enemies and reward his friends. Goodgame Studios explained that a moonstorm would periodically ravage the New Kingdom, wiping out players' progress. This wasn't actually shown in-game, but it explained why players would have to start again each month. One of the cooler new prizes available from the Storm Islands, although I didn't see it used much in the game, were the troops. These were powerful and fast-moving, but as the name suggests, would die even after a successful attack. Players couldn't loot resources with them, and they were kind of an expensive proposition. Initially, these troops would die even if your target opened their gates, so you can imagine if you were defending in this situation, to spite your enemy, you would probably open your gates. Around this time, Goodgame Empire and Empire 4 Kingdoms were moving into international markets. Goodgame Studios announced a large-scale TV advertisement campaign in Japan and South Korea. I happened to find this Game of Thrones-esque trailer for the game on YouTube. It's from 2014, I know that much, but I'm not sure whether it appeared on television anywhere. It's probably not the same clip as was advertised abroad. Also in April, Goodgame Studios made minor adjustments to the attack planning window and added 3 new adventure maps, all taking place in the Everwinter Glacier. In May, the Wheel of Fortune made its first appearance. I'm sure you already know how this worked, but we'll cover it anyways. Players would spend tickets to spin the wheel and win random prizes. Prizes included tools, equipment, coins, resources, rubies, decorations, and VIP points and time. Each player could spin the wheel once for free per each appearance of the event. By spinning the wheel multiple times, however, players would level it up and get better prizes. There was also a premium mode, only accessible to players who had bought rubies before, where you could spend 10 times as many tickets per spin to get prizes that were 10 times better. This allowed players who had bought large amounts of tickets to use up their tickets more quickly. Landing on the jackpot in premium mode was a great way to collect rubies. Like the VIP system, the Wheel of Fortune was introduced as a premium feature, but in time started catering more to free players. Also like the VIP system, the Wheel of Fortune was eventually replaced by a new premium version of itself, in this case the Wheel of Unimaginable Affluence, without actually being removed from the game. In retrospect, the Wheel of Fortune was a really interesting update. It marked a change in the way Empire was monetized. Rather than exchanging money for specific known items, players would now gamble. Arguably, this change was for the worse. When it was first introduced, the Wheel of Fortune was, on average, a competitive way of getting the game's best items. I say on average because you never actually knew what you were going to get. Using the inherent excitement or appeal of gambling, Goodgame Studios coaxed players to spend a little more. No doubt some of the players who spent money on tickets walked away disappointed. For the desktop version of Empire, the actual likelihood of winning the best prizes was not disclosed. In the mobile app, it was, at least much later when the Wheel of Unimaginable Affluence was added. And this might have been due to regulatory requirements. I can only speculate. A full legal and moral analysis of gambling in video games is beyond the scope of this video, but let me quickly play devil's advocate. Those players who did purchase tickets did so of their own free will, and many enjoyed this type of monetization. What is more, players usually obtained wheel tickets in premium offers that included other rewards, so for the average purchase, players knew most of what they were going to get. True, the Wheel of Fortune marked the first time Goodgame Studios implemented this type of monetization in a big way, but it wasn't unprecedented. You'll remember the mysterious crate sold by the resource trader that Goodgame Studios introduced in 2013. Evidently concluding that the Wheel of Fortune fully replaced that feature, Goodgame Studios got rid of it toward the end of the year. There were also randomized equipment packs for sale at the equipment trader, starting in 2013. Ultimately, whether for good or for ill, the Wheel of Fortune paved the way for later features, most obviously the Wheel of Unimaginable Affluence, which we've already mentioned, but also for the Fortune Teller, mystery boxes, General's Offerings, and the short-lived Path to Enlightenment. The Wheel of Fortune wasn't the only update in May. Other changes included new diplomatic features, like automatic declaration of war and the ability for alliances to demand and offer tribute. There was also a new event that, while it was active, allowed players to instantly complete building construction and upgrades for free. Finally, to incentivize players to actually defend, Goodgame Studios made it so that resources could be looted if the player opened his gates. After June, Empire would look different, literally. Goodgame Studios implemented a graphical overhaul of the world map. Certain map features like NPC fortresses, stationed troops, nameplates, outposts, and alliance diplomacy symbols were all made larger so as to be seen more easily. While I had personally developed a liking for the old two-dimensional art, I can see how the change made Empire appear more professional. On June 5th, Goodgame Studios reported 200 million registered players across its games. Empire, with over 77 million registered players, was the developer's most successful title. Also in June, Goodgame Studios revised the missions at the Mercenary Post to reward players with VIP time and points. A new tool, the Ballast Stone, allowed players to slow the travel speed of their armies. The automatic slowdown feature had not yet been introduced. I doubt the Ballast Stone was used very much, but it provided an alternative to the Alliance safe house for protecting troops overnight. Empire received another huge update in late June. Goodgame Studios added a new event, the Foreign Invasion, that was meant to simulate PvP combat. Again, we'll do a quick summary of how this event worked. While the Foreign Invasion was running, players would find their castle surrounded by foreign invaders on the world map. Players could attack these targets to earn glory. Each glory point earned was also a point in the event. Foreign targets could have wildly differing defense setups, so it was necessary to obtain a spy report beforehand. It was important to attack the invaders within an hour or so of obtaining that spy report, as their defense setups could change. And the foreign invaders would themselves attack your castle, although no more than a couple of times per event. Successfully defeating a foreign invader, whether on the attack or on the defense, would cause that event castle to be replaced by another on the world map. The event had a grind component in that players would have to defeat many small targets in search of a large one, where they could send glory banners against it to get more glory. At this time, there was no option to pay to fortify or dethrone a foreign invader. Honor, which increases glory collected, became significant not just as a marker of PvP prowess, but as something needed to perform well in an event. The entire thing was made to look like players from another Empire server were invading. Looking back, it's clear that many players were fooled and that Goodgame Studios did little to dispense the confusion. After all, the event was actually titled the War of the Realms. The targets were computerized in reality, but they were based on real players. Each run of the Foreign Invasion was billed as a competition between specific servers. Goodgame Studios used anonymized player data in determining the defense and attack strength of Foreign Invasion targets. More populous servers like Germany 1 and Russia 1 came to be associated with more powerful foreign invader targets. Players were excited to be matched against these servers because a more powerful opponent meant better opportunities to collect glory. Top players and alliances would get rewards at the end of the event. The Foreign Invasion would soon come to be associated with the armor of the Foreign Warlord. This powerful 5-piece commander set became a staple of PvP. Its existence meant that free players could collect competitive equipment. The savior of the Empire decoration was another prize for the top performers. The Foreign Invasion built off of what Goodgame Studios had learned from the failure of the Great Tournament. You will remember that we discussed the Great Tournament in the 2012 episode. That event, a simple competition to collect glory, was designed to promote actual hostile PvP. It failed because players learned they could use more banners and maximize their glory if they arranged their attacks with friends. Ultimately, the design of the Great Tournament rewarded multi-accounting. Goodgame Studios was able to make the foreign invasion more fair by anonymizing the targets and introducing the possibility that a target would change its defense setup. In July, Goodgame Studios introduced gems. Gems could be embedded into equipment items to provide small additional bonuses. Players could loot them in levels 1 through 4 from robber barons or purchase them in random packs from the equipment trader and later from Luna's trade boat in the Storm Islands. Players could upgrade gems up to level 10 via crafting. Gems were initially extremely underpowered and not even guaranteed to activate. An example of an early gem effect would be, say, a 20% chance of increasing frontal combat strength by 5%. For those familiar with the modern game, this reads kind of like a general's ability. In response to player feedback, Goodgame Studios soon revised gems to always activate and to provide more meaningful effects. Chance-based gems that players had already collected were left in the game for about a year. August brought another series of small updates. Players could now obtain coat of arms symbols that gave bonuses like extra food production or glory. Goodgame Studios also introduced 3 new glory titles, up to King the Steel-Hearted, plus the King the Invincible title for the player with the most glory on the server. With these new titles came Elite Guard troops. Players could also now skip Robber Baron cooldowns and start aristocratic banquets for rubies. A third level for the Research Tower included unlockable veteran soldiers like halberdiers and heavy crossbowmen. The game's soundtrack was changed too. The new score was about 6 minutes long and included some ambient sounds like people working and birds chirping. You're listening to it now. Due to technical constraints, however, Goodgame Studios quickly shortened the version that plays in the game. Now, I like the old soundtrack, which is why I've used it in my videos to date, but I actually like the new soundtrack too. Also in August, Goodgame Studios introduced the Underworld. This event was essentially a third version of the Thorn Kingdom, with some minor differences. The Underworld event tasked players with helping a cowardly adventurer clear a sunken realm of a race of fiends. It rewarded them with runestones. Players who completed the Underworld once could compete again, with greater difficulty on a so-called master level to earn rune gold. Among the rewards players could receive were extremely powerful troops like the Cave Smasher. These units were the most powerful in the game until relic troops were added much later. Sadly, I believe the Underworld has since been removed from the game, as I haven't seen it in quite some time. The game received a handful of updates in September too. Alliance gifts were introduced. There was an event on the forums where the community got to design a decoration. The result was a throne. Goodgame Studios also expanded the Alliance notice board, and looting was changed to allow players to collect coins in PvP battles. This last change was useful for very low-level players. PvP could now be a greater part of leveling. October arrived, and so did the Gift Trader. This day event allowed players to purchase gift packs and send them to friends. I don't think it was used very much until gift packs started to be given out as event rewards. Goodgame Studios also added a new adventure map, with this one being set in the Burning Sands. Monuments appeared on the world map in the Great Kingdom. This capturable asset increased the glory earned by all players in the Alliance. Monuments spawned in small and large varieties, but all could be leveled up by sending resources to them to provide a maximum of 20% extra glory. Monuments reset and respawn monthly. They were initially abundant, but Goodgame Studios has since reduced the number of monuments that spawn to make capturing them more competitive. Goodgame Studios made some adjustments to the Nomad Invasion, shortening its runtime, but also shortening camp cooldowns. Goodgame Studios explained that it intended for players to be limited by the need to recruit troops, rather than by artificial cooldowns. Finally, Goodgame Studios introduced Alliance bookmarks. These provided a way of flagging Alliance assets like the Safe House and the Alliance Monument. It also came with an in-game system for coordinating one's attacks with other members of one's alliance. This was a nice feature to bring into the game, But both before and after the update, I think most mass attacks have been planned using external tools like Google Spreadsheets. By the end of October, Goodgame Studios reported in a press release that it had over 1,000 employees, making it the largest game developer in Germany. Another press release in early November touted that the company's revenue had increased by 28,000% over a 5-year period. November's game improvements included alliance boosts and a reorganization of the travel overview. Alliance leaders and generals could purchase boosts by spending resources out of the Alliance treasury. Boosts could, for example, temporarily increase the attack combat strength or glory gained for all Alliance members. Goodgame Studios also made it so that players could ship the kingdom resources, charcoal, oil, and iron ore, between all of the kingdoms, including the Great Empire. As it turned out, this last change was in preparation for November's biggest update, the Legendary levels. This huge but mostly empty update added 500 new Legendary levels for players who were at level 70. There were new wood, stone, iron ore, and food production buildings that kingdom resources would be required to build. Initially, some pre-level 70 buildings were changed to require kingdom resources too, but this was removed in response to player feedback. The stonemason, flour mill, and sawmill also got additional levels. There were new quests related to constructing and upgrading these new buildings. However, there was also an easier, repeatable quest that allowed players to level through collecting glory. As a result, certain features of the Legendary levels update, especially those that did not increase food production, were largely ignored. The Hall of Legends, probably the most significant aspect of this new Legendary levels feature, was not included in this first update, but it was right around the corner at the beginning of 2015. With a year-end update in December, Goodgame Studios increased the travel speed of horses for troop movements of less than 100 units and gave certain premium buildings, like the military hospital and the drill grounds, a small public order effect to incentivize players to build them. Well, there we are. Goodgame Empire had reached the end of 2014. I think you'll agree that the game now looked, sounded, and felt different than before. This was really the first year where the pace of new content completely outstripped where most players were at in the game. Goodgame Studios intended features like the new research and the Legendary levels to take players many months to complete. The upside was that all of the new updates provided plenty of things to do. The downside was that a clearer distinction between purchasing and free players emerged, as purchasing players pulled farther ahead in the game. Players looking at the horizon may have been able to pick out problems that would become important in the game's future. At the end of 2014, however, Empire's player base was strong and the game was lots of fun. 2014 was another good year for Goodgame Empire. Thanks for watching, please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.